of my Mount Everest is to provide affordable housing to families via manufactured homes. I am interested as well in that co-living model, but I think that's one of the peak within the Mount Everest. Yep, yep. And this business is all about the who holds the map to your treasure, my friend.
Hey, we can help you out with co-living, so bring some funding or find us a deal and we can work
We'll
together
make it
and make
happen.
you a partner. Yeah.
Let's go.
That's all si hablas español y quieres aprender a invertir, busca a Edgar Vargas en la comunidad de nosotros. Hello and welcome to Dream Start Own, the path to own your time. I'm your host, Edgar the Connector, and today we got the other Edgar, Edgar Vargas. He's the better Edgar, you know. I'm trying to get up to his level. He's been with the community a little bit longer. When did you start Subto?
Oh, brother, I lose track of time pretty fast. So, don't pin me on a date, man. It's been a little bit over 2 years. So, yeah, time flies.
Awesome. Yeah, 2 years. You got about a year head start. I got in last year, right after Owners Club, was when I joined Subto. I was in Gator February of last year. But I had been following Pace for about a year before that in the free Facebook group and YouTube University.
That's pretty awesome, man. No, thanks for, giving me time here with you, man, and being able to share a little bit I know. Hopefully it inspires others to take action. We always say take imperfect action, right? So,
yeah, exactly. Imperfect action is better than no action. It's better than learning. Multiple people I've had on the podcast say they were like for years studying, and then they go to do it and they run into things that they never were in the books or YouTube University they studied. So it's good that you're giving permission to listen to, that progress over perfection and imperfect action. That's what you said.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
imperfect action, brother.
Cool. What got you into the community with Subto?
Yeah, man. So it's funny, man, how sometimes things fall in place. It's for a very long time, the wife and I had looked into real estate investing, and we pretty much were at a point where we wanted to invest in real estate. I wanted to go into business acquisition, and I started looking more into business acquisition. I was like, I feel that that's the right path. I think I should go that way. And I started following Cody Sánchez. And that's before she started her mentorship. And I was just following her. You mentioned the YouTube University. So, I was following her, what she was doing, buying boring businesses. And then Pace Morby, she interviewed Pace Morby. And I was like, man, who's this guy? And I just started following his stuff. I shared it with my wife, and my wife's like, "Oh man, this is amazing! What you can get into creative deals with no money out of pocket, and you don't have to go apply for loans and stuff like that." And that's kind of down the rabbit hole we went, and ended up joining both Subto and Gator at the same time. So that's how I got into the real estate investing side, through Cody Sánchez YouTube. But it had been one of those things where we had considered it, but just we're like, well, we don't want to own, like at that point we were like, well, we don't want to own rental properties yet, and we don't want to come in with like a whole bunch of money down. It's like
Right.
I didn't see it, like why put so money down? There has to be another way. And then Pay showed up.
Yeah. Shout out to Cody Sánchez. She's amazing on YouTube and the stuff that the information that she's sharing with people, her book that just came out. I haven't read it yet, but I've heard good reviews. She gives out some amazing things, and I want to follow her as well, like the business buying, but there's too many. I'm trying to control my shiny object syndrome. I already got too many in the way. But I'm an efficient thinking person, so I'm like, man, maybe if I go for one business, I can get that so much more, and then it's difficult.
Bigger cash flow. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's amazing. You went in the Pace Morby community all in Gator and Subto at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned that shiny syndrome object, and it was. I told my wife, if we're gonna go in, we're gonna go all in, and I focused first 6 months in Subto, and we're able to lock up a property. I was super eager that it was gonna be my first rental. It was a creative deal. As new, right? I mentioned earlier imperfect action. I did that. I made it happen. My wife brought me to reality though quickly. We locked up
What
the
are wives
property.
for?
Yeah. He kept me in check, man. So we locked it up, and at that point, I was thinking, well, this is going to be perfect. We're going to be able to rent it and make some cash flow. My wife's more of the analytical person. She sat down, started looking at numbers. She's like, Edgar, what are you doing? This doesn't make sense. We're gonna be losing like $500 a month.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, so the PITI was pretty high. Rents in the market were not gonna, you know, and it was an HOA, so I couldn't do any like rent by the room or midterm rental or anything like that. And we pivoted though. We were able to find a buyer, and with the support of the community, we were able to lock up a buyer. And at the end, it worked out. But it was, there were super stressful moments there where, you work so hard to get a property under contract, and the agent, yes, and you wired your EMD and everything set, and then for your first deal to fall apart, it was, "Ah, no, it's gonna happen."
Oh yeah, I feel it as well, man. I understand, but that's great. You were able to. You said you wanted to do it. You got your MD. You went through with the purchase. You through the middle of it, you figured out that it wasn't going to work the way you wanted to, but the community, the Subto community, was able to help you out. To I guess you wrapped it to somebody else.
Yeah, so we ended up assigning it to a homestead buyer.
Okay.
Yep, yep, and just assigned it, got an assignment out of it, and it was good, right? Made a little bit of money, and then we were able to find somebody that was willing to take up that mortgage and pay that rent, pay that mortgage for that area, which is a win-win. So
Yeah, and besides the money that you made, that experience was probably so much more
yeah,
than you could have learned from any YouTube university or just listening to somebody talk about it.
yeah, that's when I decided I wasn't going to be in wholesaling.
Wholesale's a different beast, man. It's the pay says it. It's another job. You can do it part time a little bit, but if to really be successful at it and scale, it is time consuming. Getting the deal, underwriting it, and then trying to find a buyer for it. I have some bird dogs with Pace and being an Owners Club. You're wearing the hat, Owners Club. Shout out to Pace Morby and the communities put together. He's giving us bird dogs now, so I'm receiving a bunch of leads that match my buy box, and I have an underwriter now working with me, and we're
Nice.
getting the deals, and so we're like, okay, one out of every 15 pencils out, but now trying to get a buyer because right now our people are full on contracts, flips that I can't, I can't take them on, and
Yeah,
because the market's kind of slow, it's slowing everything else down. But yeah, definitely wholesaling is a different beast. So if you're gonna get into wholesaling, people that are watching this, be sure to know that it does take some time. It is time consuming. It's not something you can do for 5 minutes a day.
yeah, I think along those lines, right? Wholesaling is a great business. They make good money, right? It's if you have a great team and business structure, it's definitely a great business, right, in the real estate space. But to your point, you can't do it alone, and and that's true for any business, right? You can't do something alone. You need a team. So if you are new and you're looking to get into the wholesale space, Edgar, the connector, I'm sure has a few contacts. I have a few contacts that could potentially plug you in an running team. So not to scare y'all that wholesale is a business, right? Like any business, nothing's easy, but if you put the work in and you're dedicated, you're going to make good money.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of team, what's your team look like now?
Yeah, so I pivoted right from the wholesale space more into the lending space. So primarily we're focusing on fix and flip loans for fix and flippers or DSCR loans for people that want to keep buy and holds or new construction loans. So we have a pretty solid team focused around just hard money lending and transactional lending. So yeah, I mean it's you mentioned underwriting team. Yeah, we have underwriting, but for fix and flips, it's once you get it down right, you can understand the numbers, you understand the market, and you could pass it on to our capital partners who do the final vetting, right? So
If we have time, I'm going to ask you about a slightly different type of lending. I'm going to make a note of this right here to see if it's something that would interest you or your company would do. All right. So lending, you're doing fix and flip. I'm pretty
yeah,
sure your rates based off of, what are your rates based off of?
yeah, definitely. So experience is one, right? credit is definitely the other one, and then at the end, write the deal. The deal has to pencil out. But yeah, I mean, interest rates can vary. They start at 9.9%. We've seen one that was a little bit lower than that, but interest rates start at that. And this is hard money lending. Now, we do have other types of lending, which is more on the private money lending side. There is a difference, right? Private money lending is a little bit quicker money, but it's a little bit more expensive money as well. Those interest rates could start at maybe 15% up to 18% annualized returns. There's other structures where you could potentially have a flat fee involved, where it's still first position. All the loans I handle are first position. I pivoted away from second position loans due to, some bad deals that we got into, and a big another learning opportunity. But currently, all of them are first position. But yeah, just depending on the type of deal, we want to be able to provide solutions to our investors, right? If it's a fix and flipper, we want to give them, hey, these are our hard money loan options. If you need quicker money, these are some private money lending options for you. Our private money lending options are a little bit more narrow to a few states, but always open to see if it pencils out, if it works out. Yeah, nobody's going to say no to a good deal, right?
Right.
There's always money available.
So your private money is limited to a few states. Is hard money limited to certain states as
No.
well?
Hmm.
Okay. And then somebody that's requesting hard money, how much do you usually of the deal do you fund?
Yeah, we have a program currently we're doing 100% on the acquisition side and on the rehab, and that is limited to a few states as well. But typically, on average, right, you could get 75, 80%, depending again on experience and stuff like that. If you're super experienced, you could potentially get up to 90% of the acquisition. But yeah, there's a few programs out there. Like I said, we want to be able to bring the best product to our client and let us do the heavy lifting for them, where we could shop around, different price, different lenders, right? Um, it's we understand that there's investors seasoned that have their own lender, right? Dedicated lender, their go-to lender, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if they ever need any other options, because maybe the way they do their draws, is a little bit painful, or maybe they change something where their draws are being, obnoxiously painful, right? We could potentially bring somebody else that could make it more efficient for them.
When you're saying draws, you mean so for the construction part of the loan, right?
Correct.
They do all the demo, then you release some money. They do the flooring. They hit milestones essentially, and then you release money
Exactly.
as they go to make sure they don't have too much to run away with.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, you clarified it. Yeah. Dross is like, hey, we gave you, let's say, 90% of the acquisition, and then you have to have working capital to be able to put in, let's just say, 5,000 or $10,000. And when you say, hey, Edgar, I completed $10,000 worth of work, we'll send our inspector out there. If it's hard money, right, we'll send our inspector. They'll make sure that you did put $10,000 worth of work to, with your scope of work that you have provided us, and then everything checks out. Then they wire you the money for $10,000, and then you continue on till, right, 100% of that rehab money is used.
Understood. Cool. Is there a minimum and a maximum for hard money lending?
Yeah, so ideally we always want to be above $100,000, and that there are a few lenders out there that would do less than 100,000, especially more on the private money lending sector. But for hard money, we want to stay anything above $100,000. Um, yeah, so that would be the limit. But if it's a good deal, just the margins, right? It's all about margins when we're looking at capital. If you're looking at a $30,000 property and the ARV on that property is 45,000 or 50, right? There's just not a whole lot of, you know, meat on the bone.
Right.
If you're
Yeah.
gonna tackle, yeah, if you're gonna tackle like a $30,000 project, why not just tackle like a $200,000 project, right?
Yeah. It makes sense because it was essentially like Jerry Norton when he was on Squad Up, he was mentioning that it's the same basically steps and the same amount of work, but your margins are so much higher. So it's better to do a higher level flip than such the low level ones. Um,
Yeah, I agree with that.
and it's weird. I guess 100K is like a sweet spot for even for HELOC loans. I know a couple of years ago I tried to do a HELOC. This is, let me see, before I sold my primary house, and we only had like 80,000 in equity because it wasn't an expensive house. But nobody would do it. They were like, "Oh, you have to have at least 100,000." I was like,
Mm,
"That's weird." It's like, why would you want to lend me more to have a higher chance of default? I didn't get it, but I assume it's just that the numbers and the interest is why they do that.
yeah, yeah. At the end, it's like, hey, we're gonna, it's too much, too much paperwork, right? If it's less than 100,000, it's like, yeah. So you mentioned earlier the time and energy you put into something small, might as well make it worth it on a bigger loan, right? And
Yeah, definitely. Okay. And then so you have your private money section as well, and that portion is a little higher interest rate. And then do you have a limit on those minimum and maximums currently?
no minimum, no maximum. It just it has to be a deal, right? It has to be a win-win for everyone. Um,
Right.
and that's the thing. We just don't lend money to lend, right? We want to make sure that it's a win for the investor as well.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
we've heard a few stories in the past where lenders just lend the money and they don't really care about the investor, whether it's a high risk loan or not. Um, that that's not how, PACE teaches us to build relationships, right?
Right.
And I think that's one thing where we want to build that relationship where it's a continued borrower, right? We do good to you, you're going to come back and bring more business to us.
Yeah, exactly. That community that Pace has put together, the Go Giver, is just amazing. So many people that I've interviewed as well, they're always like, "Oh, sub to this, sub to that," in positive ways. It's just such a good vibe.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, that's definitely good people, doing great things now. Yeah, there are some bad apples, right? But um, at the end, I think there's more wins than than bad.
Yeah, that's another good thing about it. When the bad apples do show their true colors, they tend to get filtered out and let no longer in the community, no longer welcome. So this is a good way to filter them out too. Unfortunately, something bad's got to happen, but they they show the true colors, and most of the people is not going to be that way. That's amazing. Are you looking for more private money lenders to help you fund deals?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If anybody's interested in funding opportunities that are secure in first position, if that's something that all investors have different types of risk profiles, right? Or different ideas on what is a good lend, right? And some people that don't know, right? It's important for them to understand what their risk profile is, what they want to lend on, because once you get into lending in real estate, there's like so many avenues. We talked about shiny syndrome logic. That also happens in the lending side. If you want to deploy capital into real estate, there's so many different ways to deploy that capital. So understanding how secure is your money, right? How if you can get your money back, how quickly can you get your money back? And just understanding those two things are going to put you in different ways of where to lend money. Like I said, all our private money is in first position, so it's super secured, and it's in states where the auction laws are very favorable to lenders. So we could quickly foreclose on a borrower, right? If they don't do us right, where we can recoup the money. So yeah, it's just there are other states where auction is extremely long and it's slow, right? And
Yeah.
you don't want to deploy capital in those states because even if you're
Yep.
in first position, your money's just sitting there. So, and that's what I mean with securities, right? And then understanding what that risk factor is. Other people want to take a higher risk or higher gamble, and they're okay deploying capital in second position, which is riskier because now you're just depending on an amazing borrower to come through. And you really have to do your due diligence when it comes to borrowers if you're going to go that route. If you're lending in the second position or third position. Yeah, but if anybody's interested in investing in some of the projects we have going on, more than happy to, at least open the conversation.
Fantastic. What has been the best way for you to find private money lenders?
It goes back to relationships. It's not going to happen the first conversation. It's telling them the projects that I'm involved with, right? That I've deployed capital in, that I've had capital partners deploy money in, the returns they're getting, right? And it's just come to, again, right? What is that? What do they want to do with their money? How can they put it to work better? But at the end of the day, it's relationship based. Do they want to do business with me, right? Do they want to do business with the projects that I'm involved in? Currently there's a lot of people, right, raising capital for all different types of projects. So just you have to find that vibe of people, that tribe of people that vibe with your energy, right, and your projects. So, it's just me sharing what we're doing here in the Georgia market with manufactured homes and new luxury construction homes, and in the fix and flip space, how we secure their capital. Just sharing that is at the end of the day, like I said, I repeat it again, relationships. Because you're not going to get somebody that you just met to give you money, right? Um, it's possible, it can happen, but
Right. Okay. Yeah. Relationship is big, especially when they're trusting you with large amounts of money. Do most of these people, are they family that you've met? Is it people that you meet during networking? Is it during your construction process that you're meeting private money lenders?
yeah. So a lot of it has come through the years of relationship I've had in my profession, but also recently more in the just letting people know what I'm doing, right? And I've had capital partners approach me that they want to deploy capital, and we just put them in secure positions, through networking events. That's a good one, and then just local meetups, right? That's another good one. But there's just so many places where you start building those relationships. And one thing I still need to do better is on my follow up, because even though we've had good conversations, I lack sometimes in that follow up where, hey, I know we chatted about some projects, and I I I need to get better at that stage. But yeah, I've had a few capital partners come through, like just meeting, meetups and like I said, networking events.
Yeah. Follow up is key, and that is hard, something hard to do. One thing is now with if you have an Apple, you can schedule your follow up if it's Apple to Apple. Android will let you do it to anyone. So shout out to Android on that one. I know Pace, you're talking about Apple. Apple will only let you do it to Apple. But if let's say you are an Apple trying to text an Android and you can't schedule it, one thing I started doing is I'll add it to my calendar just real quick. Just put 15 minutes, say, hey, follow up this person, and then just drop it 2 weeks out or a month out. And even
Mm,
if I don't hit them up and them out, it'll be on my calendar so I can either move it forward or just check it off. And then even if I do follow up at that time, I can set it to repeat once a month just to remember to have them top of mind to say, hey, this is what's going on, give them an update and to be able to help us with the follow up. Cause that's the biggest thing is that hurts us is not following up, but helps us when you do it. So it's a
yeah,
major tool to do it. So if you're watching this and you're having issues following up, either schedule it on your phone or be better with your calendar and schedule it there. It's quick and easy.
yeah, no, solid advice there, man.
Tell me more about the manufactured homes that you're doing in Georgia. That's where you're based at, correct?
Correct. Yep, yep. Yeah, we're doing manufactured homes and providing affordable solutions for families. So we're with the team, we're acquiring lots of 1 acre plus, and then we have a great relationship with the dealer, and we're getting homes at a good price, and we're putting them on the market and just selling them to conventional buyers through FHA or USDA loans because they're about an hour and a half away from the Atlanta, so more in the outskirts, northeast of Atlanta. Um, but currently, I guess the market is a little bit slow. There's a lot of uncertainty. with the current situations, right? And a whole other things, right, that are causing, and I don't know, just people not buying. But yeah, that's what we're focused, providing that affordable housing through new manufactured homes.
That's awesome. So you have a relationship with the manufacturer of the homes. Are they only providing the housing in that area? I'm pretty sure it has to do with like delivery. We can't say shipping because it's on the roads, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It gets shipped on huge semis. So it's no, they deliver primarily southeast, Alabama, North Carolina, Florida. Yeah, they're pretty much everywhere, like on the southeast
Okay.
side. Um, but our dealer he does have connections where there's actually they can span a little bit further out, but that's another company that we haven't used. But he has brought that option to us. We wanted to expand further out.
Okay. Yeah, I asked because me and Adam Colburn, shout out a fellow owners club member, we have a sober living house in Knoxville, Tennessee. It's on an acre. It's a 1,700 square foot house, I believe. And we're looking to add some more housing to it because we have it leased to Oxford House and they
Okay.
need more housing. So Adam's been looking more into it. He tells me a little bit about it. He's more responsible for it than I am. So we're considering manufactured homes, but one thing is, I don't know, maybe you know somebody that may be able to find out how we need to set up the land because the land is the whole full 1 acres right now has a DSCR loan on it. So
Hmm.
like a mortgage, right? So we need to see how we can get I guess, plotted, not subdivided, but be able to add the ADUs if we can make them ADUs. I guess somebody to speak to about how that land can work, that 1 acre land can work to add those houses. What do we have to do with the city? Maybe since they're manufactured, they have connections to deal with stuff like that. And if you could refer me somebody, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one thing, right, with manufactured homes is that the zoning, they have to allow manufactured homes, and depending on where it's at, you could easily just, you could call the county, and there's county should have a zoning department, and just ask them, hey, I have this property here at 123 Banana Street. Is the zoning, what the zoning allow for manufactured homes? And they're quickly going to tell you yes or no. If they say no, then you could pivot into what they allow modular homes, because there is a difference between modular homes and manufactured homes. So as soon as if they say no to manufactured homes, then you can pivot into modular homes or ADU homes, right? ADU and modular homes are sort of the same, but there is a slightly difference as well. So
That's
yeah,
crazy.
the best person, or like the best folks that you can get clarity from, is county. Go to call up county and go to their zoning department and ask them that simple question, and they're going to tell you what they'll allow within that county.
Call the county zoning departments. All right.
Yeah,
Sweet. I didn't realize that manufactured modular were different. I thought they were
yeah,
essentially the same thing. You learn
yeah.
something new every day, man. Thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely different. Zoning's different, and yeah, just especially probably that property's already. Hopefully, it's in a sewer, public sewer, right? Because if it's septic, then you have to worry about, even though it's in a 1 acre lot, if it's
Yeah.
septic, how much of that is being used for the septic lines, right? The drain lines and stuff like that. Then depending on the layout, right? Are you even allowed to put another one? Because then you're going to have to add another septic lines. So it just, there's a lot more into once you start looking into that. But yeah, start by even seeing if it's zoned, right? If it's possible, then you move on to the next step. Okay, is this on septic or is it on sewage? If it's on septic, then you go start digging out, right? Like find out,
Yeah.
okay, where is this at and how is it laid out? And then at that point, you would talk to the health department, because health department and zoning, they both have to agree. Zoning could tell you, yes, manufactured homes can go in there, but if health department tells you no, they shut you down.
I didn't even think about that. Wow. Septic, that's actually just had a class on that from shout out to David Ross. We were talking about co-living. He was talking about septic where he's at. They only allow one septic tank per property. And then there's like a new technology for septic tank where you only have to pump it so often, but that city doesn't allow it basically because of politics to allow all the septic people's jobs to remain in place. It's pretty crazy. He got pretty in
Yeah,
depth in it.
for sure, man. Yeah, it's that septic world is. There's a good friend. He's out in Alabama, and he was able to design in 1 acre lot. He put, I want to say, like 6 manufactured homes, and in 1 acre, dude, that's crazy. And it's septic, so they have to do some special engineering for the septic tank, so all of it can fit in. Um, So it's yeah, it's pretty cool, what you could do, and then once you start looking into septic world and all how the lines are, you have to have like an emergency space as well for like an emergency line, not just your main lines, but you have to also have emergency lines. So that
Wow.
takes up space. Yeah.
Wow. Um, Diving a little bit deeper into the manufactured homes and affordable housing. So, is it just the houses that are more cost efficient to build, or is it that you're going to be doing like a co living or tiny houses?
Yeah, so it's just, the cost of acquiring a property. A few months ago we were seeing that, here in the Georgia market, for a brand new manufactured home, we were hoping to sell them for like 250,000. And that's in an acre lot. So it's very private, right? With $250,000, if you were to come in a little bit more in the city, you're not gonna find that. You're not gonna find like a new home. Even you won't even find like a beat up home. Everything is up in the 300,000s, right? Um, Now, as an investor, you could potentially acquire a home at lower, right? But for something that's on the MLS, you're not going to get a new home for 250. So
Mm.
that's where we were thinking, if we provide this brand new home and make it affordable, right, in 1 acre lot, there's people that will want to move out to the outskirts of Atlanta and want to buy that property, right, through an FHA loan or a USDA loan. USDA loans are great because it's more on the outer side, right? And those are like, I think, 100% finance.
I've heard about USDA loans. I don't know much about like the qualifications for them.
Yeah, they just have to be like rural. You're not going to get into USDA loan like in a major metro area. It has to be very rural.
Yeah. Are they all? Do they have a land size limit? Does it have to be like an acre minimum? Do you know?
Good question. I don't remember that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're building them, right, and putting them there and then selling them just to families, right? Because there is that big trend currently, which is co-living, um, right, and renting it by the room, but that works for individuals. And yes, there is a huge sector of the population that needs to rent a room, but what about families, right? Families
Right.
that have kids, right? You're not going to put them in a single small little house or a house and renting in a room, right? So that's where I think something like this, would help those families where even if they have to drive an hour and a half away from Atlanta, which, it's not too bad, they're getting a new home and, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, pretty big, a good size home too, and good acreage.
Nice. 1 acre, 3-2 modular home. So brand new home.
Yeah,
That'll,
brand new home, manufactured home.
yeah. Fantastic. Is that your Mount Everest?
Yeah, that is my Mount Everest is to provide affordable housing to families via manufactured homes. Um, I am interested as well in that co-living model, but I think that's one of the, peaks within the Mount Everest.
Yeah, we can help you out with that. That's my specialty, and Adam and Louver co living. So just bring some funding or find us a deal, and We can work
We'll make
together.
it
I'll make
happen.
you a partner. Yeah.
Let's go.
That's, that's how I ended up joining with Adam. I had him on my podcast and he was talking about needing some funding for that property. So I helped buy into it and we're partners on that one. And then I helped
That's
Luber,
awesome,
shout
man.
out to Luber with the fourplex. And I did a sponsorship on that loan to help him out with it.
Nice,
So
brother.
I'm trying to taste all little pizza, taste all the different samples of pies, you know?
That is pretty awesome, man. So you went with the micro family
Yes,
there with
Luber.
Luber.
Yep. And then I actually had one sober living too. I have it in Pasadena. It's outside of Houston. I did kind of like you, got excited about this Subto deal, and it was hard to pass up, man. It's a $400,000 house, 3,700 square feet. At close, I was paying like $7,000 to get it. And so it was either me move in or sober living. There was basically the two options to make it work. And you know, what did you say? Not progress over perfection. Oh, imperfect action. Yeah,
Imperfect action.
imperfect
Yeah.
action. And dude, I've learned so much from it, and so many people rely on me on now being the sober living guy. And Adam, kind of the same thing. He's becoming a sober living guy in
Yeah, I know, Adam. Yeah.
the East Coast. And we're supposed to have something coming up. But I recently started too. If you have some housing, some leads that come up for properties, and you need to find an operator, I've started a sober living operator service, finding service.
Mm,
So and reach out to me if you need that, and I can try to find you somebody.
pretty awesome, man. Yeah. I know that I spoke to Bridget, trying to remember her last name. She mentioned sober living, and the need for it, and we had a conversation about how we could collaborate, and it was just something that got brought up. But yeah, there is a need, right, for that type of housing for people that are coming out of a bad situation.
Yeah, it gives them some stability, and then people that it's like your vibe. You know how they say in the community, if you hang out with millionaires, 5 millionaires, you'll end up being the next millionaire. Same thing with that. If you're hanging out with people that are doing the bad things, you're probably going to end up doing that too. So we put
Yeah,
them in housing where they're doing good things. They're reminded daily to do chores, to talk to other people, so they're not getting into the addiction phase again. So it's a good cause. It's good help, and then there's so many different ways to go about it. That's one of the ways. That's my Mount Everest. Is part of it's co-living. My Mount Everest through co-living, but sober living is one of the ways to get to the co-living portion.
nice. Pretty awesome, man. Great cause you have going on there. And definitely great people that you've partnered up with. Lieber, amazing dude.
Yeah, he's killing it. He's doing great. Adam's doing great. They're all doing great. You're doing great, man. I'm following some footsteps, you know?
Yeah, that's what we got to do, man. Constantly, keep improving, keep getting better.
Yeah. Before, so you're the funding that you're in right now, is that your own company? You've become the owner of the funding, or do you work with like a sub lender? How's that work?
Yeah, so I'm part of Duke Allen, which is my partner, Joseph Castañeda. He's not part of the community. It's just somebody I met at Abraham Gray's mastermind about a year and a half ago or so. No, maybe more. See, I'm telling you, man, I'm bad with time frame. Yeah, but we met and pretty awesome dude. And we started our Nosotros movement here in the Georgia market as well, which is Nosotros Inversionistas. So where we pretty much just share what we've learned. He's been doing it for longer than I have, and just sharing our knowledge with the local community here in Georgia, whether it's helping them understand how to get into fix and flips, helping them understand in the creative finance space, helping them understand, how to put their money to work. It's just really empowering our Spanish speaking community, and becoming entrepreneurs, or if not becoming entrepreneurs, learning about how they can get into real estate either through lending capital or just, acquiring acquiring properties.
Nosotros invertistas,
Inversionistas, yeah.
inversionistas. Um, I've seen
Comunidad de inversionistas, yeah.
I've seen a few people in it, but I don't know too much more about it. Is that a sub community of Subto? Is it its own separate community? Is it just Spanish speakers? Can you tell me more about it?
Yeah, so that's just the community me and Joseph founded. It started, like I said, a few years back, and it's just been here in Georgia, just us sharing right with our Spanish speaking community, and yeah, like all our meetups are in Spanish. We had one recently that was in English, but it's more for Spanish speaking people, geared towards that. Within Sub 2, though, we do have like amazing Spanish leaders as well. There's Lisette, there's Luz, there's um, a few others that have the Sub 2 Latinos, um, you know, but that they're definitely Sub 2 focused and helping any newbie Latino speakers come in and at least when they ask questions or they don't know where to go, right? That's a good support group to join. But the community we started here in Georgia is more centrally focused in Georgia. We are planning to expand out to other markets, but again, right, it's just Spanish speaking communities figuring out how we can help and collaborate, right? And especially within our Spanish speaking, there is that sector that they're very untrustworthy. Like they don't trust easily, right? Because people have taken advantage of them,
Right.
and we want to be able just to pretty much give free content away. We're not going to charge memberships or anything like that. We want to give free content as Pace does, right, through his YouTube channels and his podcast that he does, and all the lives he does, right, for free. We want to be able to bring free content. Um, now the meetups, right, there is a small cost, but just so we could support, right, like the drinks and stuff like that. Um, but we want to be able to give more than like the $20 entry cover, right?
Fantastic. So let me try this in my Spanish. I can speak regular Spanish, like common words daily, but when it's new words, so I say, a ver, si hablas español y quieres aprender a invertir, busca a Edgar Vargas en la comunidad de nosotros y en Atlanta, Georgia.
Así es,
Y,
Edgar. Te
y
salió bien.
te encuentran en donde Facebook o una página del internet.
Sí, en Facebook me pueden encontrar Edgar Vargas y en Instagram it's Edgar Vargas. También tengo mi canal de YouTube, también Edgar Vargas, me pueden buscar ahí y que conectarnos, ¿verdad? Para que podamos crecer como comunidad y nos podamos ayudar y colaborar. Am, una cosa que nosotros pensamos siempre es nosotros somos más, ¿verdad? Si lo hacemos unidos y juntos. Es difícil, como dije al principio del Zoom, de la entrevista, es que it's always better when you work as a team, and finding the team that you vibe with, alguien que ustedes puedan conectarse y sientan esa misma vibración y energía, pueden crecer y a lograr cosas más grandes.
Buen dicho. Yeah. Awesome, man. I know Armando Cruz, he's got his community as well,
Oh
Latinos
yeah,
Creativos. He was one of my first podcast guests. He's got an amazing story as well. That dude's rocking it, man. He's doing fantastic. It's hard to keep a hold of, though.
yeah, definitely. He's well established in the community, and he's definitely been doing it for a while. So yeah, kudos to him for all his success. And yeah, we're just starting, right? We're just planting our little seeds and and watering them with knowledge. That's all we're doing. We don't, like I said, we don't want to charge anything, just the cover for our meetups, but yeah, no memberships or nothing like that. We just want to be able to give.
That's fantastic. The only problem with free is like listening to what Pace says is you got to do like the Walmart and Costco. The people that get free, they don't take it seriously. They take advantage of it, or they don't. What is it that called they don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've thought the same things. Like, oh man, why can't you just give it to me for free and then I'll make my money and I'll pay you back for it? But it does make sense. A lot of people listen
Yeah,
to it.
you have to be able to invest, right? You have to be able to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
It's not just about investing in real estate. At the end of the day, like once you become an entrepreneur, you're growing. You're growing as a person, right? Because it there's so much stuff, right, that goes into being an entrepreneur. Mindset, right? Uh, Sometimes right, there's the states where is it even going to happen, right? Well, what's going on here? And so you're definitely investing in yourself, growing as a person. So, the idea is for us to be able to empower, educate people with knowledge, but at the same time, we will host like 2-day workshops where, we are going to bring people that if they're really intentional and they really want to learn, yeah, well, there is a specific, higher upcharge. But that's one of the projects, to be able to host workshops around 2-day workshops, just like as Pace taught us in owners and empower them, right? And then now they're really investing in themselves when they could, when they're paying $2,000, $3,000, right, for a 2-day workshop. They're super intentional about that.
Yeah. When's your next workshop? Do you have one scheduled yet?
We don't have one yet currently. The last one we hosted was a PML mastermind in Spanish. It was called PML Latino.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and we had success, right? We were able to make it happen, but Spanish, our community dealing with money. I think I don't know if that was the right approach. But I think a lot of us in the community still want to learn more about fix and flips. So who knows? We may do a workshop on fix and flips and how to use hard money loans for fix and flips. Maybe that's more appealing.
Okay. You try and you learn, right? Trial and error.
Yeah, yeah,
And like you said, imperfect action. So it's good. You learn, you know what to improve on or change up for next time. And that just means that your next workshop's going to be even better than the last one.
yeah, for sure, man.
Awesome. So before you got into investing your Subto deal that you did, what were you doing before that?
Yeah, so I have a degree in electrical engineering. Um,
Okay.
I've worked in the healthcare space for like 20 plus years. So repairing medical equipment, CTs, MRs, that's primarily what I've been, my background.
Nice MRIs and CT repairs. You have
Yeah.
any crazy MRI stories of the magnet going crazy?
Oh man. No, just a few little things where the magnet strength is pretty powerful, man. People walking in there not realizing the magnet's that strong. Stuff just getting ripped out of people's hands and stuff like that. And there
You,
was, well, there was one story where there was this guy that went in there with a gun and yeah, luckily it didn't go off, but geez, as soon as he got close to that magnet, that handgun just stuck to the side of the magnet. And wheelchair stories, like people not being mindful of the type of wheelchair they're going in there with, and even gas tanks. So yeah, those magnets are super, super, super strong.
is that usually when the damage occurs when somebody brings in a metal object? That's when you have to do your repairs.
No, so typically it's more of when the something breaks with it, like either a bad part goes, a part goes bad, or the image quality degrades. It's not as crisp as it was, right? Or something's causing that image quality to not be what it was. So yeah, it's more of the corrective side. Done several installations as well, and during installations, you'll encounter different problems. Sometimes you didn't plug in a cable the way you should have, right? You left it unplugged when you thought you would have. Now the startup, you get different errors. So yeah, but typically the systems are very solid when it comes to identifying what the symptom is just by looking at the logs and then systems tell you they're pretty good when it comes to identifying, hey, you should check this. And you go, oh, okay, dang, I missed that. Image quality issues are a little bit more harder to diagnose because there's no logs. You're just trying to figure out why is this image looking like this? You have to have the knowledge to be able to figure out what's causing that.
That makes it a little easier than I had Alan Foster on here recently on the podcast, and he was doing a flip, and they did all the new electrical in the house, and they would come back to the house to work on it, and one of the lights was on. Man, what's going on here? So they would go turn it off. They come back, it's on. They're like, okay, they think it's a short somewhere, so they're checking it, redoing electricity, redoing it like multiple times, and then one day they're in the basement, and they start hearing footsteps upstairs, and he's like, "Hey, I told you to lock the door upstairs." His partner's like, I did. It's like, no, you did it. There's somebody up there. And then they hear the door open to the basement, and they hear steps, doom, doom. So his partner pulls out his gun. He's like, "Who's up there? I'm gonna shoot you." No answer. You just hear the footsteps. And the other guy goes, "Yeah, what he said, I'm gonna shoot you." And he still hears the footsteps. And they keep on hearing footsteps coming down the stairs. And he's like, "Wait, there's only 13 steps. Like, I put the stairs in, I know." And they counted like 17 steps, and they just kept on hearing footsteps coming down the stairs. So
No
they
way,
figured
dude.
out that something like paranormal was messing with their lights.
Oh man, that's crazy, brother.
Yeah, so there's no log to tell you that
Yeah,
a poltergeist or something turning on those lights.
jeez, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, man,
Whew,
that's
that's wild, man.
if you're watching this podcast, you check that out, man. He's got an amazing story. I'm gonna try to have him on some more just to tell me some other stories he's got, man. It's just crazy what things people experience.
Yeah, that is crazy, man.
So once you started Subto, you got in the community and you started doing real estate, you did lending. How long was it before you quit your W-2?
I still haven't.
Oh, you still haven't? You still working it?
No.
Okay.
Yep, yep, yep. I call it my superpower.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Why do you call it a superpower?
man, it just gives me the availability, man. You know, it's I am blessed that I'm able to work from home, and you know, it just gives me availability to be able to just keep supporting us, right? And and I'm passionate about what I do. Um, you know, I definitely don't think I would quit. It's I enjoy what I do, repairing, talking to different hospital people. Um, yeah, no, I enjoy it.
Excellent. No, I only ask for other people that are thinking they want to invest that they have to quit their W-2. If they're enjoying their W-2 and they love doing that, that they can still do this on the side, either being a DSCR lender or a hard money lender, private money lender, working with somebody like you to help lend money, and even doing sub-2 deals where it doesn't work out, but at the end it did work out. You know, it didn't work out the way you
Yeah,
wanted to, but with the community's help, you were able to figure it out. If you had tried to do that deal by yourself, do you think you would have ended up finding a homestead buyer going back to the sub-2 deal?
yeah, no, man. I mean, yeah, I think I was already yeah, pulling my hair. I was like, dang, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you don't want
but
to do
no,
that,
I
man.
mean,
You have a good set of hair.
yeah, but definitely, you know, it's a superpower. You know, there are times where you start comparing yourself to others, and you're like, man, I should quit my job. You know, but you know why? You know, especially if you enjoy it. Now, if you're in a situation where you don't enjoy it and you're not making enough money, or you don't have the flexibility, right? Then that's a different story, right? But everybody has their own story. Everybody knows where they're at in their journey, and you know, just praying about it, right, as a family together, and then making the right decision, right? Because people sometimes get over what's that word that I'm trying to find? Um, yeah, real estate is great, right? But there's there's a lot there's a lot, right? So if you don't have stuff in you know, properly set up for your family, especially if you have kids, you don't want to put your family in a situation, right? There's different mythologies, though. You know, I don't want to say what's right or what's wrong. There's other people that feel that if you burn the bridge, right, or if you burn your boat, then there's no way back, and that's the only way you can make it, right? It just, you know, just depends. I enjoy what I do. Yeah, so there's,
Yeah,
yeah,
good. Very insightful. I mean, everybody has their own path. Everybody has their own branch, their own. way. So some people need to do that to where they can't look back, because if you're too comfortable, then you're not going to grow.
Yeah, that's true.
What can somebody help you out with today in your business?
Good question. I think, just I'm all about relationships, right? My business is focused a lot on relationships. So, definitely want to meet more people that want to learn more about investing, whether it's fix and flips, whether it's putting your money to work. Yeah, if you know anybody that wants to get into real estate, or maybe you want to create projects right here in the Georgia market, yeah, I'd love to the opportunity just to connect.
Fantastic. So fix and flippers, if you need some hard money, some private money, get with Edgar
Yeah,
Vargas. If
it can happen.
you're going to keep the property, you're ready to burn it out, he'll do the DSCR loan for you as well. And then if you're in the Atlanta, Georgia area, go to his meetups. Yeah, you don't have to just speak Spanish. You have English ones as well. So you're inclusive.
Yeah, that's right. Don't worry, we'll have tequila there if you drink. You'll
Oh,
you'll you'll pick up Spanish really quick.
arriba. What advice do you have for an entrepreneur that wants to get started but just keeps on stuck in analysis paralysis?
I said it at the beginning, right? Just take imperfect action, man. Go get yourself, whether you're going to start wholesaling, whether you're going to start lending money, build relationships. I think I don't know how many times I've said relationships, but it is important to take imperfect action, but you also want to surround your people with people that you're going to be able to say, hey, I got this going on. Can you look at it, right? I need another set of eyes. You don't want to make imperfect actions when all of a sudden, let's say that you want to get into the lending space for whatever reason, and you're like, I got $20,000. I saw a post on Instagram that they said if I deploy $20,000, I'm going to get 40% return on that money. Possible, yes, it is, but what is the risk, right? Do you understand the process? So don't let that bait get you, right. It is imperfect action, but if it's your money, you know, yeah, learn a little bit more, talk to people that are doing it in the business. How are you protecting that money? What's the paperwork? What's the correct paperwork? Um, Even in the wholesale space, right? If you're going to get into wholesaling space, there's so many different avenues to get into wholesaling, whether it's direct to seller, direct to agent. It's just a matter of building that relationship with somebody that could point you in the right direction, and just at that point, then go take imperfect action, and then bring that trouble to whoever that person is, and say, hey, Edgar, the connector, I got this deal here. I locked it up for this much. And then Edgar's going to say, dude, man, you locked it up too high. That's taking imperfect action. Or finding a lending opportunity and saying, hey, Edgar, I got this lending opportunity. They're asking for $20,000 and they're telling me they're going to give me 40% return in like 30 days. Really? Let's look at the deal, right? How does this deal pencil out? How are you going to get paid back? Right. So just um, that's what I mean imperfect action, because there's some people out there, right, just throwing money and they lose it. Um, and it's sad because that does happen, right?
That's a very good perspective, man. Thank you for sharing that. Great advice. I'll give a thumbs up to Edgar Vargas here.
Let's go.
Leave a comment if you have some questions on them. What you learned, what's stopping you, what paralysis, paralysis,
Analysis.
analysis paralysis. My Spanish sometimes don't let me speak my English correct.
I know that feeling, my friend.
Where can people find you at?
Yeah, so Facebook for sure, Edgar Vargas. Instagram, I'm more active on Instagram. It's Edgar Vargas. And then definitely check out my YouTube channel. I currently have a current playlist just dedicated for private money lending. So if you are looking into the private money lending space, I have a whole bunch of speakers that have gone in there that share their wisdom about private money lending, how they're securing deals, different types of lending opportunities they're getting into, because private money lending is a business and you treat it like a business. You are a bank, right? So you have to have certain operating procedures like, SOPs, right? in place where your money's going to be protected, your capital partner's money's going to be protected. So yeah, I'm all about private money lending and capital and moving it. So definitely check out that playlist if you're interested, or if you're a Latino out there, right, wanting to get inspired by how other Latinos are doing it in this business. I have a Spanish version as well, like a Spanish section with amazing entrepreneurs that are accomplishing great things. And those are the two things that I'm super passionate about. Besides, I say, besides what I do, which is repairing medical equipment, which is pretty awesome.
Wonderful. Um, Question about you. You said you have an underwriting team, and for people that are starting have deals, do you provide underwriting for a fee?
I mean, for majority, it's fix and flip underwriting, so it's pretty simple. We're super conservative on the numbers, but if for new investors that are getting into the industry, especially in the fix and flip space, we usually just say, hey guys, if you're on that 70% rule, 70% of total project costs, most likely all lenders are going to lend you money, right? And if you have your total project cost and you divide that by 70%, that should give you your ARV. And if your ARV is below that, then you should be okay, because you just don't like you don't want you want to be yourself in a good deal, right? So we go by the 70% rule now. I know that varies, right? So lenders, hard money lenders out there, or people that are watching this, are like, Edgar, why are you using 70% rule? Again, it's super conservative, right? Just to give us a quick, rough idea. Just if you were to give me a deal and say, hey, Edgar, this is my purchase price, this is my rehab, and we look at it and we look at comps in the area and you tell me this is the ARV, I could quickly tell you, yes, it's a deal, right? Especially if rehab is exceeding like 40, 50,000, you definitely want to have holding costs in there. And that's where that 70% rule works, right? You don't want to work for free. So you want your 10% profit in there, right? So there's a little bit wiggle in that rule, but if you stay around that 70% purchase price, I mean 70% of ARV, that's super conservative. You're playing it safe. You're not having a high risk. But that in fix and flip world, it's underwriting. It's a little bit simpler than a creative underwriting. So creative underwriting is a lot more, right? Because now you're underwriting for cash flow. You're underwriting for what does a mortgage look like, right? Here and from here to 15, 20 years, right? Or 5 years, right? Or did you get a balloon? Is the interest rate fixed, and what are the markets? What is your exit strategy? So yeah, that's way more right than underwriting for a fix and flip. Fix and flip, super simple. But those are the type of conversations I love to have, right, with fix and flippers, just to help them understand that, hey, let's play super conservative right now. If you really want this deal, could it work? Yes, but your risk is higher, right? So are you okay with that risk, right? Because if the market becomes stale and you can't sell that property, what is your credit score? Are we going to be able to refinance it, right, at the end? And if they don't have a great credit score, then that exit's going to be hard on them, right? Because now they have a higher holding cost because the property's not selling. And if they don't have great credit, now they can't refinance it. So, those are the types of conversations I love to have with investors, just to, at least, you know, be another source, right, for them.
Yeah, it's very thorough. Good looking out for them, and that's one thing you love doing. Then it's easy to do it, and you can do it more often. So
Yeah, brother.
that's great there. One of the things that you've been saying consistently that so I like to mention too, it's not just about how to do something. When you run into something like how I'm going to do it, is the who. Find the who
Mhm.
that's doing what you want to do, and that'll help you get to your house so much faster.
Absolutely, man. Yep, yep. And this business is all about the who. Who holds that the map to your treasure, my friend.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Paige said that, and it stuck with me that that's why networking is so important. And then when we just had this Sunday call with Pace talking about that gentleman that says, "Hey, show me your Rolodex, and I'll tell you how much you're worth."
Oh, yeah, that
And
was
I was like,
good, man.
"Yeah," and it goes back to network is equal to your net worth, and just putting it into that phrase and a different point of view, it just shows you what's possible by knowing people, building good relationships. Because if you're able to solve a problem, you're able to make some money by
Yep.
serving other people, which is great. So
That's true, man.
a lot of your money, your financial freedom can come through by serving other people. You know,
Mm.
I
Yep.
love it.
I agree, brother.
Do you have any questions for me?
No, man, just hey, super thankful, man, to be able to be here with you and share, right? We've attempted to connect a few times and you know, it hasn't happened, but it happened today. So super grateful, man, to spend time here with you and share a little bit of, what we're doing here in the Georgia market and how we're helping investors.
I love it. DSCR lending, helping out Latinos, PML. So something earlier we were talking about. This is a deal that it's a little bit different than regular real estate, right? I have a coworker. He's an entrepreneur as well. He has his own business for civil. It's for the county for the.
Mm,
I believe it's for the city. It's like a government contract. So he's going to be pouring concrete for some kind of plan. I didn't get all the details. He's going to send me the pitch, but he's going to need like 100,000 basically up front to do all the work. And I asked him what kind of collateral he has. He says, I go, I know you have a rental. Do you have about 120% equity in there? And he says, yeah. It's like, would you put that for collateral? He says,
mm.
yeah. He's like, he'd probably need to borrow the 100,000 for probably 60 days and he'd be good with paying back. I don't know. I asked him maybe 12%, something like that. If that's something you would consider doing, or if you need a higher percentage, what you would need, or if that's something just
What state is this? This is in
Texas.
Texas?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know if that property's paid off? Is it free and clear?
He says he owes, I think it's valued about 220 and he's got about 80,000 in debt on it.
Mm. Yeah, because like I said, most of all the loans we like to do is first position.
Right.
We don't want to deal in second position. And then the other thing is only for investors. So that property has to be in an LLC. It can't be his primary residency.
It's not his
Um,
primary, it's a rental. I don't know if he's got it, how it's, what it was bought under.
Structured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But besides the property for collateral, would there be something else they could do for collateral?
No, I mean, it just depends, right, on the lender. I mean, if it has enough equity in there, and if it's under an LLC, probably there would be a lender, right, that would lend in second position. Um, Again, primarily we're focused in first position loans just because we don't want to deal with if something were to happen, right? We're the ones that decide when to foreclose. Um,
Right.
we just don't want to depend on whoever's on first. So, but if there are other folks out there, I don't know if he potentially looked into getting a line of business credit. He could potentially get it for 0% interest. There's great people out there that help entrepreneurs get lines of credit for 0% interest for a year.
Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I have a few resources I can share. I'll send them to you. They could potentially help them out.
Yeah, I think he asked me about that. I go, I know a little bit about it, not too much. Um, but if it's better for somebody that's already experienced with it to direct them that way, again to the who.
Yeah, the who, man. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that would be, that's an option there, right? Now, somebody lending money in second position, that's typically more of a flat interest than like a monthly, especially if it's going to be very short term. And depending on the lender, right, they could either potentially charge like an origination point and a monthly interest and then a flat fee at the end. There's like with private money lending, right, there's like the structuring can vary, so just, make them be aware that if you do find a private money lender, right, that their terms could vary. They could
Yeah, I
either
told him
be,
flat fee of 12%, not annualized or anything, just a flat fee.
yeah,
So whoever did it would make 12,000 in 2 months because they do the
yeah,
work and they get paid out. They have to do their net 30 because government pays and takes them a little bit to
hmm,
pay back. So that's the main thing with that deal. And the deal itself, the work is not for real estate. It's
right,
for,
right. It's a business.
yeah. And then the collateral would be real estate. So it's just something that we talked about
Yeah,
today. So talking about lending, wanted to see if that's
yeah,
something you've done or experienced. But yeah, I would appreciate that referral for
business
lines of
credit.
credit.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll go from there. And then
sweet brother.
something, if you have some more time, I forgot to ask earlier about your negative experiences that you had being in second position.
Yeah, like I said earlier, right? You're very dependent on the borrower. Um, because if it doesn't pencil out at the end of the day, you have no leverage. I mean, the person who's on first is who calls the shots, right? They're going to foreclose, they're going to get their money back, and second position is just, if and it may not necessarily be the borrower's fault, right? It could potentially be a contractor that doesn't complete the project in time, or maybe it could even be the market, right? So then at that point, if your borrower doesn't have the funds to pay you back because the property hasn't sold, or if the property sells less than what we were expecting for, then how are you going to recover your money? And unfortunately, that is one of the situations where I fell into, where it was a creative deal. We were supposed to find a wrap buyer within 3 months. A year went by and no wrap buyer was found.
Wow.
And he was able to pay me back some money, but there's still some money outstanding, and things have not gone well in his business to be able to pay the remaining what he owes, right? And we still stay in touch, right? And he's like, yeah, man, let me try to figure it out. I'll get back on my feet. But at that point, right, you have no control, and whether he pays me or not, right? I can be hopeful, right, that he does, and even if you're in second position, you could put all the paperwork in place. A personal guarantee is not going to do you much, if the person doesn't have any money.
Right.
And legal fees are going to be much higher, so that's why I think second position is not something. It's a headache I don't want to deal with. There are people in our community that do it, and they have a good business model, and they're willing to take that risk, and they're willing to put other people's money in positions where they feel that they can recoup the money if something were to go bad. But that's just not a business model I don't want to be part of.
Understood. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Very insightful. Thank you so much for that. And again, thank you so much for being here. Y'all follow Edgar Vargas. Again, give us a thumbs up, subscribe. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. You help me out. You help out people like Edgar Vargas be able to join my podcast and share some knowledge to help you get ahead.
Let's go. Gracias, Tocayo.
Gracias, Tocayo.
All right, brother. Have a good one, man. Appreciate it.
You too, man. Take care.
Peace out.
Catch this next podcast where you can start your dreams and start to own your time the way these other guests have.